Hello, everyone. Thanks for coming.
Hello.
Thanks for coming, Cristina.
Yeah, my pleasure.
And I hear your husband and your daughter are also in the audience too today.
Right there.
Hi.
The cutest little girl in the audience, that's my daughter.
Yeah, welcome. So you also have an interesting story. I want to get to your family life, which is super interesting, but you were just telling me that the way that you founded the company, you didn't actually know your co-founders from college or anything like that. How did you get involved in Nubank? I mean, what attracted you to the opportunity?
I guess to make a very long story short, I worked for one of the incumbent banks, the largest incumbent bank in Brazil, for 5 years. And I was just done, making rich people richer. I saw no purpose in what I was doing. I was trying to make a lot of changes to make, consumers' lives better and failing miserably at it. And at some point I was like, you know what, I'm done. And it coincided with the time that my partner, David, who's our CEO, he was, kicking off the business. He had this vision, he had this thesis around financial services, but he didn't know the industry. So he was looking for partners, to get it off the ground. And I was just in the right place at the right time. So it was really like one of those serendipity moments, that we ran into each other. I had the skills that he needed. He had the vision of something that I really wanted to be part of. So it kind of worked out.
Yeah, and you've also been fundraising at Nubank lately. You now have the company now has a valuation of more than $10 billion. And I think you're the only company in the world with more than $10 billion valuation with a female founder right now, which is pretty impressive. What was the fundraising process like? I mean, what was it like going into those meetings, seeking funding? Tell us a little bit about that.
Sure. It's been a journey. We've raised over 7 rounds of funding at this stage, almost $1 billion in funding at this stage. And it had different flavors as the company evolved. But the round that was really challenging for me was our first one, our Series A, which I raised when I was pregnant with Alice, with my first daughter. So I actually flew to California from Brazil, 7 months pregnant, to pitch to this, to multiple rooms full of VC investors. You can imagine, the type of reaction that I got, The nicest ones were things like, oh, I've never seen a pregnant woman pitch, so. So it was pretty nice. I actually closed the round, very close to the day she was born. My partner took the papers for me to sign at the hospital. Wow. So it was pretty intense.
Yeah, did you feel, I mean, they'd never seen a pregnant woman pitch, and we all know the statistics about how few venture dollars women actually receive. How did you overcome that, or did you feel like you had to?
Yeah, for sure, we just had to. But I was very lucky because my partner, David, so our CEO, he came from the venture capital industry. So he knew a lot about how investors, think about companies, what type of things they assess, what type of things they value. So that kind of helped us tailor our pitch. And of course, for me to do my part on that for sure, so that we could get, the better odds. But it kind of worked out. I gotta say, we were lucky, and of course, based on merit, we were able to pick the investors that we wanted to have with us, that were more aligned with our long-term vision every step of the way. So,
yeah,
happy to.
Did you have a comeback ready or anything? When they would comment on your pregnancy? I know you're pregnant now. Again, congratulations.
Thank
but
you.
Is there something you've gotten used to saying to kind of, get people over that hurdle of, yes, you're a female founder and you're a mother too?
It was weird because that time I was just trying to make sure people wouldn't notice that I was pregnant, which was hard, because I got pretty big, that she was a big baby. So I just wanted them to feel that it didn't matter, that, I was this was my company, it was my life's project. So, and I was willing to do whatever it took to get it off the ground and to do, what my customers needed me to do or my shareholders needed me to do. So, yeah, at this stage, my point was to get them distracted with the business. That was it.
Yeah, well, it seems like you've been able to do that pretty successfully. Nubank is now the largest digital banking startup in the world. I'm curious, the US, Europe also have a lot of digital banks. It's kind of a hot trend right now. But you have more than 12 million customers. You've taken off much faster than many of those. What do you think has made the difference? Why have you been able to take off so much quicker?
I think it's a combination of several factors. When you look into Latin America, just, the incumbents are so bad, as bad as they are, I mean, I know banks aren't loved anywhere, but they're especially hated there. Like, you have no idea. If you Google, I hate banks in Brazil, like in Portuguese, you're gonna get pages of pages and pages of people spilling their hate all over the internet, for the banks. So people have been accustomed to decades of abuse, of being overcharged, of having horrible, products and a horrible experience, and paying some of the highest interest rates in the world, some of the highest fees in the world. So I guess what we saw was a lot of pain, just consumer pain, and people that were ready for an alternative. I used to tell my partners that they better watch out, because we're going to have to spend a ton of money marketing because people hate banks, et cetera. And what happened was, by the time we got the first customers, people were actually asking us, begging us, please, to let their friends and family be our customers. So they were referring customers to us for free. So most of our growth, like over 80% of our growth so far, has been strictly organic, just people reaching out to us, wanting to be our customers, finally ready for an alternative that wasn't the incumbents. So I guess a combination of really bad experience, large markets, of course. So when you think about Brazil alone, it's 210 million people, 60 million of them unbanked. So of course a huge opportunity, but also a lot of pain.
Yeah. I'm going to come to the audience for questions in just a minute, so get your questions ready, raise your hands, and we'll come to you with a paddle. But Cristina, I mean, so far you've been just in Latin America. You've started to expand from Brazil into Argentina and Mexico. Do you think your model could work in North America, or maybe beyond the Americas too?
Listen, I think everywhere in the world, the banking industry is being disrupted, right? Like, you're seeing challenges everywhere. For us, like from our perspective, it's just a matter of sequencing and prioritizing. When we look at Latin America, we see much more pain, as I've mentioned. As bad as they could be in Canada or the US or in Europe, they're not as expensive. Like, spreads aren't that high, or fees aren't super high. So we do see more opportunity in Latin America, but it's not like the model wouldn't work. You've mentioned a lot of startups are, having great impact in Europe. A lot of new banks are rising here in North America as well. I think the point is, like, they just don't have that much fat to go into, to compete also on price. That's my feeling. But I think, consumers are ready for digital alternatives, to do everything from their mobile phones, and not to ever have to go to a branch in their lives anymore, all over the world. That's not going away.
Yeah, I mean, you offer a 6% savings rate, which I think in the U.S., 3% is unheard of. Yeah. Is that something that could be potentially affected? I mean, in the U.S., we actually have, the Fed is lowering rates. Is that something that could be affected by federal or monetary policy around the world? Or, in Brazil, that's actually sustainable?
Well, it has been affected. When we started the business, the risk-free rate, which is what we offer, was 15%. And rates have significantly gone down just because of improvements on, the macroeconomic fundamentals there. So there's a trend of lowering interest rates, but I think our point is just to capture efficiencies and pass that on to customers, whether that's in higher yields or lower interest rates or lower fees.
Yeah. Question over here, please, and tell us who you are.
Hi. Marcia Moffat with BlackRock. One thing, so I was just looking on your website while you were speaking. Oh. Very nice. And I was glad to see that you had a non-Portuguese version of the site, since, don't
We're
speak
fairly
Portuguese.
international.
One thing, I'm always curious about with small companies. So you start off with a vision. You're in a particular niche. How do you stay true to your roots and what you want to accomplish as you grow and become bigger? Because right now you're the disruptor, and you have that the challenges of a disruptor, but you also have the opportunities as a disruptor. So as you go forward, and maybe it's too early in your company's life to be thinking this way, but how are you gonna stay true to your values and what you're seeking to accomplish as a company?
Listen, that's a great question. It's something that we obsess over, my founders and I. We've always, like, one of our values, we have 5 core values in the company, and one of them is, like, stay hungry and challenge the status quo. What we don't want is people resting on their laurels and just believing, oh, we're done, we got this big valuation, and we're now in 4 countries, and we have over 2,000 employees, so we're good, and we can just behave just like the incumbents have. So it's something, it's a culture push that we make every day, like through our leadership, through our actions, through the way that we make decisions, to make sure that people stay hungry. We've borrowed some things from Amazon, like the day one concept, like we keep repeating that so that people can understand that it's always the beginning. There's so much opportunity. Even as, we're serving now close to 15 million customers, which is, huge. But we're like, well, there's another 100, in Latin America alone that we could get to. So when you take things into perspective, you can, depending on how you frame it, you can always see yourself as a beginner, and have that beginner's mindset, that challenging mindset. So that's what we're trying to do.
So the plan to conquer Latin America first and then potentially see about other markets.
Listen, we see a lot of opportunity in Latin America. When you multiply the size of the population versus the spread versus the customer paying, like this is the biggest opportunity anywhere in the world, even Asia, when you compare that. So for sure, it's more interesting here, but it's always about prioritization,
Yeah. Were there any other questions here? I've got more if you guys don't.
Over there.
Yeah, please. Tell us who you are.
Hello, my name is Ananya Chada. I was wondering, what's the biggest challenge you're facing right now?
It's always people, always people. Listen, we have over 2,000 employees, as I've mentioned. We have a fairly diverse team. One of our core values is also we build strong, diverse teams. We have over 40% of women at Nubank, which is amazing. If you think about financial services and technology, is unheard of. We also have over 30% of our staff identifies as LGBT, which is also unheard of. So we do have a lot of diversity. But still, like to grow at the pace that we wanted to, we would need a lot more people. Our biggest bottleneck isn't capital, isn't regulation, isn't consumers, it's just people. It's just being able to grow the team at the high bar that we have in terms of talent across the regions that we want to serve. So for sure, like that has always been and will continue to be the biggest challenge. That's why diversity is so important.
Yeah. I wanted to ask you, speaking of technology, one of the biggest trends in fintech over the past few years has been blockchain technology and cryptocurrency. Is that something that you've looked at or that you might be interested in using in your business?
I think for now, like we're curiously watching what's going to happen with crypto, because the blockchain itself as a technology has so much potential. But as far as the use cases go, we haven't seen something that has truly solved a need, Even when you think about Bitcoin, it has been used mostly for, speculation as well as, some shady businesses. So we're kind of like cautiously watching the use cases and the applications. If and when there's something that really, is meaningful for our consumers, sure, we could get into that too.
But right now you feel it doesn't add a lot of efficiencies.
It's about the consumer. Like I don't see a real problem that consumers have that technology would solve yet.
Mm-hmm. What are the biggest consumer problems that you're trying to solve?
So for us, it has been about, sure, high spreads and high fees for sure, but also horrible customer service. And we have an amazing team that we call Expeers that offer the best experience when people need service and they reach out to us across all our channels. Our NPS is close to 90, which is amazing. Like if you think about big tech companies, it's like the benchmark worldwide is 60 to 70. Like when you get to 90, it's just, people just really love us. So we're solving for just offering them the experience that they deserve, and treating them as humans and, just figuring out finances so that they don't have to worry about that and not be held hostages of, the incumbents anymore. Just grab back the control of their financial lives.
Yeah. We've just less than a minute left. Do you have any final thoughts about what banks can learn from you, or what message, should banks and other fintechs take away in terms of where finance is going?
I always tell people it's about solving customer pain and real problems, right? Like in my business, often innovation is mistaken by, we're working on this ring that will make payments, or this bracelet, or this like new shiny thing. And I tell people, like, how many customers are losing their sleep tonight because they don't have a ring that makes payments? Like zero, I'll tell you, like 0 people are losing their sleep tonight. But many of them are losing their sleep because tomorrow they're going to have to go to a branch to figure out like some fee that they were overcharged for, that have no business being deducted out of their account. So those things matter, the pain matters. Mm-hmm. So just focus on that, solve those problems.
Great. Well, we're so glad you could join us here. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.
Yeah.